In a bold move that is set to shake up global industries, China has implemented strict export controls on several critical rare earth minerals, which are vital for manufacturing high-tech products such as electric vehicles, smartphones, and advanced military equipment. These rare earth materials, including dysprosium oxide, terbium metal, and NdFeB magnets, are indispensable in the production of some of the world's most cutting-edge technology. As the world grapples with this latest development, businesses and governments are expressing growing concern over the potential long-term impact on supply chains and technological advancements. The new restrictions signal a shift in China's strategic use of its rare earth resources, which could have far-reaching consequences for global industries, particularly in the United States. Decision to restrict export of rare earth minerals. In April 2025, China made a bold move in global trade by announcing stringent export controls on several vital rare earth minerals. This decision, which affects dysprosium oxide, terbium metal, and NdFeB, neodymium iron boron, magnets, is poised to shake up industries worldwide. Rare earth minerals are indispensable in the production of advanced technologies such as electric vehicles, EVs, smartphones, military equipment, renewable energy technologies, and consumer electronics. China's new export controls could disrupt global supply chains, impact industries reliant on these materials, and trigger geopolitical shifts. The timing of this move is critical, as the demand for these minerals has surged due to the global push toward green energy, the electric vehicle revolution, and increased technological advancements. What are rare earth minerals and why are they important? Rare earth minerals are a group of 17 elements in the periodic table, including scandium, yttrium, and the 15 lanthanide elements. These materials are not rare in the geological sense but are difficult to extract in economically viable quantities. As such, they are not typically found in concentrated deposits, making mining operations challenging and expensive. Despite their relatively low abundance, rare earth minerals are indispensable in the manufacturing of a wide range of technologies. For instance, dysprosium oxide and terbium metal are critical for producing high-performance permanent magnets. These magnets are used in the manufacturing of electric motors, wind turbines, and motors in electric vehicles, all of which are crucial to global efforts to combat climate change. Dysprosium, in particular, is used to enhance the thermal stability and strength of magnets, which are essential for the efficiency of electric vehicle motors and other high-tech devices. NdFeB magnets are another type of rare earth magnet that has wide applications in motors, speakers, computer hard drives, and other high-tech products. These magnets are especially crucial in industries such as telecommunications, automotive, and renewable energy. The importance of these materials lies in their role in the production of technologies that underpin modern life. Electric vehicles, for example, require rare earth magnets for their motors. With the global automotive industry transitioning to electric power to reduce carbon emissions, the demand for these rare earth materials has skyrocketed. Similarly, wind turbines, which are central to the expansion of renewable energy, also rely on rare earth magnets for generating power. In addition to green energy technologies, rare earth minerals are crucial for military defense systems. Many advanced weapon systems, including missiles, radar systems, and communication equipment, rely on the use of rare earth minerals. Their unique magnetic, optical, and catalytic properties make them indispensable for the defense and aerospace industries. China's dominance in the rare earth market. China has been the world's dominant supplier of rare earth minerals for decades. It controls an estimated 70 to 80% of global production and holds most of the processing and refining capacity. As of recent reports, China is home to about 40% of the world's known reserves of rare earth elements. It has leveraged its dominance in this critical sector to position itself as a key player in both global trade and geopolitics. This dominance is not just due to China's rich mineral deposits but also its control over the entire supply chain, from extraction and processing to manufacturing and final product assembly. In the past, China's rare earth exports have been subject to periodic fluctuations, as the country has sometimes imposed temporary restrictions to protect its domestic supply or as part of broader geopolitical strategies. China's influence over the rare earth market is particularly significant because of its role in high-tech manufacturing. It supplies a vast majority of the rare earth materials used in the global electronics and electric vehicle markets, which are vital to many countries, especially the United States and European Union nations. Given the centrality of these materials in modern technological infrastructure, China's dominance has raised concerns in other countries, especially the US, which relies heavily on Chinese supplies. These concerns have led to efforts to develop rare earth extraction capabilities in other parts of the world, such as in Australia, the United States, and Africa, but these efforts are still in their infancy, and the costs and environmental challenges associated with rare earth mining remain significant. In April 2025, China took its control of the rare earth market to a new level by announcing a comprehensive set of export controls. The restrictions apply to several critical minerals, including dysprosium oxide, terbium metal, and NdFeB magnets, all of which are essential for the high-tech and renewable energy sectors. The Chinese government cited concerns over the environmental impact of rare earth mining, as well as the need to preserve these valuable resources for domestic use, as the primary reasons for the new measures. However, analysts believe that these measures are also strategically motivated, as China seeks to exert greater influence over global trade. The restrictions come at a time when the global demand for rare earth minerals is surging. The electric vehicle market, which is growing rapidly as countries and automakers commit to reducing carbon emissions, is a major driver of this demand. In addition, the renewable energy sector, which relies on wind turbines and solar power systems that also require rare earth magnets, has seen significant growth. The widespread use of rare earths in high-tech consumer electronics, including smartphones, laptops, and military technologies, further exacerbates the situation. For years, China has been using its control over the rare earth market as a bargaining chip in trade negotiations. In 2010, China imposed a temporary embargo on rare earth exports to Japan during a diplomatic dispute, causing global panic and triggering calls for diversification of supply sources. In 2025, the government's latest restrictions seem to reflect a broader strategy to leverage rare earth minerals as part of its geopolitical maneuvering, especially in the ongoing trade tensions with the United States. The Chinese government's approach to the export of rare earth minerals is highly calculated. It has introduced a licensing system that requires exporters to submit extensive documentation about the end users of the minerals. The process is lengthy and bureaucratic, often taking several months to complete, which further delays the availability of these materials for foreign markets. Companies that rely on these materials, such as those in the electric vehicle and renewable energy sectors, are now facing significant uncertainty in their supply chains. Global impact, industry concerns and challenges. The restrictions on rare earth exports from China are already having significant ripple effects on global industries. Electric vehicle manufacturers, such as Tesla, are facing delays in production as a result of the scarcity of rare earth materials required for their motors. Without access to these materials, companies may struggle to meet the growing demand for electric vehicles, potentially derailing the global shift toward clean energy and electric transportation. Tesla, for example, has already reported that the production of its humanoid robots, including the Optimus robot, has been affected by the shortage of rare earth magnets. Elon Musk has stated that Tesla is working with the Chinese government to secure export licenses, but the process remains slow and uncertain. Beyond the electric vehicle sector, the renewable energy industry is also under pressure. Wind turbines, which are essential for generating renewable energy, rely heavily on rare earth magnets for their operation. The shortage of these materials could hinder efforts to expand renewable energy infrastructure and achieve global carbon reduction goals. The defense industry is also deeply affected by China's rare earth export restrictions. Many advanced weapons systems, radar equipment, and electronic systems used by military forces worldwide depend on rare earth minerals. The United States, in particular, has expressed concerns over its reliance on China for these critical materials, especially given the geopolitical tensions between the two countries. For manufacturers worldwide, the new restrictions have highlighted the vulnerability of supply chains and the dependence on China for essential materials. Countries like the US and Japan, which are heavily reliant on China for rare earth minerals, are now facing a crucial decision: how to diversify their sources of supply to reduce dependence on China. Future outlook, diversification and alternatives. As China tightens its grip on the rare earth market, countries and companies are scrambling to find alternative sources of supply. One of the most prominent efforts has been in the United States, where there are increasing calls for the development of domestic rare earth mining and processing capabilities. The U.S. government has already taken steps to support the development of rare earth production, including the opening of new mining projects in states like Wyoming and California. Australia, which is the second largest producer of rare earths globally, is another key player in efforts to diversify the global supply chain. Australian companies are ramping up their rare earth mining operations and seeking new markets for their products. However, it will take years for these new projects to come online, and there are significant environmental concerns related to rare earth mining that must be addressed. In the long term, the restrictions imposed by China could accelerate the development of alternative technologies, such as the recycling of rare earth minerals. Companies are increasingly investing in technologies to reclaim rare earths from old electronics, batteries, and other used products. However, the recycling process remains complex and expensive, and scaling it to meet global demand will be a significant challenge. Overall, the global rare earth market is at a crossroads. As China continues to assert its dominance, the international community will need to find ways to adapt to the changing dynamics. The race to secure rare earth materials has become a geopolitical battle, with countries seeking to reduce their dependence on China while ensuring that they have access to the critical materials needed for their high-tech and clean energy future. Strict export licensing process. As part of its new restrictions on rare earth mineral exports, China has introduced a stringent export licensing process that further complicates global access to these critical materials. This step is designed to control and monitor the flow of rare earth minerals out of the country, ensuring that these resources are reserved for domestic needs or directed toward specific, authorized foreign buyers. The licensing process is not only a regulatory hurdle but also a powerful tool for China to assert greater control over the global rare earth market and leverage its position as the dominant supplier of these essential materials. Under the new policy, Chinese exporters of rare earth minerals are required to submit extensive documentation and prove the legitimacy of their exports. The process begins with an application for an export license, which must be submitted to China's Ministry of Commerce, the government body responsible for overseeing trade policies and export regulations. The application includes detailed information about the types and quantities of minerals to be exported, as well as the intended use of the materials. One of the most significant aspects of the licensing process is the need for exporters to provide information about the end users of the rare earth minerals. This requirement is a response to China's growing concerns over the environmental impact of mining and its desire to control the long-term sustainability of its rare earth resources. By ensuring that minerals are used in environmentally responsible and economically strategic ways, the Chinese government aims to reduce the overextraction of these valuable materials and promote their use in technologies that align with China's long-term development goals. The application also requires exporters to submit proof of compliance with environmental and safety standards. These standards aim to address the growing concerns over the negative ecological impacts of rare earth mining, which can be both resource-intensive and environmentally damaging. As a result, China's government has implemented stricter environmental controls to ensure that mining practices are more sustainable, although critics argue that these measures are also a way for China to further restrict access to its rare earth resources. Once the application is submitted, the process of approval can take weeks or even months. The MOFCOM evaluates each application on a case-by-case basis, considering factors such as the quantity and type of minerals being exported, the credibility of the buyer, and the environmental impact of the mining process. For some shipments, the review process can extend beyond the typical timeframe of 45 working days, and the final decision on whether or not to approve the export license rests with various government agencies, including the State Council and other regulatory bodies. One of the major challenges for foreign companies is the uncertainty and unpredictability of the approval process. Because there is no fixed timeline for approvals, many businesses are left in limbo, uncertain as to when they will receive the necessary permits to access the rare earth minerals they require. As a result, many companies are facing delays in production, particularly in industries like electric vehicles, renewable energy, and high-tech manufacturing, where timely access to materials is essential. The bureaucratic complexity of China's licensing system has made it difficult for international companies to navigate the process effectively. Exporters are often required to work with multiple government agencies to ensure that all required documents are submitted and approved. For example, the Ministry of Commerce must approve the export license, but the Ministry of Ecology and Environment also plays a role in verifying that the mining practices used to extract the rare earths are in compliance with environmental regulations. In addition to the complexity of submitting the necessary documents, exporters are often faced with delays. The review process can stretch on for months, as the approval involves multiple steps and cross-departmental communication. This can be particularly frustrating for companies that rely on a steady and predictable supply of rare earth minerals to meet production deadlines. The unpredictable approval timeline means that businesses, particularly in high-demand sectors like electric vehicle manufacturing, are finding it difficult to plan for their future material needs. The delays also affect companies that are seeking to secure long-term contracts with Chinese suppliers of rare earth minerals. Many companies enter into agreements based on the assumption that they will have steady access to the materials needed for their products, only to find that the approval of export licenses takes longer than expected. This has led to disruptions in production schedules and forced some companies to explore alternative sources of rare earth minerals, despite the challenges associated with diversifying supply chains. While the export licensing process serves practical purposes, such as controlling the flow of rare earths and mitigating the environmental impacts of mining, it also serves as a strategic tool for China. By controlling the approval of export licenses, China can use its rare earth resources as a bargaining chip in trade negotiations and geopolitical disputes. For example, in previous years, China has used its control over rare earth exports as a weapon in trade disputes, notably during the 2010 Sino-Japanese diplomatic crisis, when China halted rare earth exports to Japan for several months. The move resulted in widespread panic in global markets and caused significant disruptions in industries reliant on these materials. This was a stark reminder of how China's dominance over the rare earth market can be leveraged to exert political pressure on other countries. In the case of the current restrictions, China's government could use the licensing process to selectively approve or deny export licenses based on political considerations. For instance, China might prioritize exports to countries that are more aligned with its geopolitical interests, while limiting or restricting exports to countries with which it has ongoing trade disputes, such as the United States. The ability to control the flow of rare earth minerals provides China with significant leverage in both economic and diplomatic negotiations. This strategic use of export controls is not lost on the global community. Many countries, particularly the United States, have recognized the risks of depending so heavily on China for critical materials. As a result, there have been increased efforts to diversify rare earth sources, both by establishing domestic mining operations and by building strategic partnerships with other countries that have significant rare earth reserves, such as Australia and some African nations. Implications for global supply chains. The implementation of a strict export licensing process has far-reaching implications for global supply chains, particularly in industries that rely heavily on rare earth minerals. For companies in the electric vehicle sector, such as Tesla, General Motors, and Volkswagen, access to these materials is crucial for producing efficient, high-performance motors and batteries. Any disruption in the supply of rare earths can lead to delays in production, reduced output, and ultimately, higher prices for consumers. Similarly, the renewable energy industry, which depends on rare earths for the production of wind turbines, solar panels, and batteries, is also facing challenges due to the licensing restrictions. As countries around the world ramp up their investments in clean energy infrastructure, the global demand for rare earths is expected to grow. In the military and defense sectors, the scarcity of rare earth minerals could jeopardize the production of advanced weapons systems, including missile defense systems, radar equipment, and fighter jets. Many of these systems depend on rare earths for their high-performance capabilities. Given the strategic importance of rare earths in military applications, countries that rely on China for these materials may face national security risks if they cannot secure a steady supply. Overall, China's strict export licensing process represents a significant shift in the global trade of rare earth minerals. While it is designed to control the flow of these valuable resources and ensure their sustainable use within China, it also provides the Chinese government with a powerful tool to influence global markets and geopolitical outcomes. For businesses and governments around the world, the implications of this process are profound, as they face new challenges in securing access to the materials that are essential for the technologies of the future. The announcement of China's decision to impose strict export controls on rare earth minerals in April 2025 has sent ripples through global industries, causing widespread concern across sectors that rely on these critical materials. The rare earths in question, dysprosium oxide, terbium metal, and NdFeB, neodymium iron boron, magnets, are integral to a host of advanced technologies, ranging from electric vehicles, EVs, and renewable energy systems to smartphones, military equipment, and consumer electronics. With China controlling a dominant share of the global rare earth market, the export restrictions have far-reaching implications for global supply chains, and they present significant challenges to companies that depend on these minerals for production. One of the sectors most immediately impacted by the export restrictions is the electric vehicle, EV, industry. As governments around the world ramp up efforts to meet carbon reduction targets and transition away from fossil fuels, electric vehicles have become central to these strategies. Rare earth minerals, particularly NdFeB magnets, are crucial in the manufacture of electric vehicle motors. These magnets are key components in the high-efficiency motors used in EVs, which are necessary for maximizing energy performance and reducing battery consumption. China's restrictions on rare earth exports could cause significant disruptions to the global supply of rare earths. Major automakers like Tesla, General Motors, and Volkswagen have already expressed concerns about securing a consistent and affordable supply of these essential materials. Many of these companies rely on China for their rare earth materials, and the new restrictions could force them to seek alternative suppliers or develop new technologies to reduce their reliance on rare earths. Tesla, for instance, has openly acknowledged the impact of China's export restrictions on its production of electric vehicles. The company's chief executive, Elon Musk, has stated that the production of its Optimus humanoid robots, which rely on rare earth magnets for their motors, has also been delayed due to the shortage of these materials. Musk has called for increased efforts to find alternative sources of rare earths, particularly from regions outside of China, but these efforts face significant challenges in terms of both time and cost. The restrictions also affect the renewable energy sector, particularly the production of wind turbines and solar power systems. Both wind turbines and solar panels use rare earth magnets in their generators, and as global demand for renewable energy infrastructure grows, so does the need for rare earths. Countries that are heavily invested in renewable energy, such as those in Europe and North America, are likely to face significant challenges in securing a steady supply of these critical minerals. Wind farms, which have been heralded as one of the key solutions for reducing carbon emissions, depend on high-strength magnets made from rare earth minerals to operate efficiently. Without consistent access to these materials, the global push to increase renewable energy capacity could face major roadblocks. In addition to the EV and renewable energy sectors, the global high-tech electronics industry is also facing significant challenges due to the export controls. Rare earth elements are used in a wide range of consumer electronics, including smartphones, laptops, televisions, and hard drives. In particular, dysprosium and terbium are used in the production of high-performance magnets that are essential for the operation of these devices. The scarcity of these materials could lead to delays in production and price increases for consumers. Companies like Apple, Samsung, and Huawei rely heavily on a steady supply of rare earths for their products. A shortage could affect their ability to meet the rising demand for electronic devices, especially as the global market for smartphones and other consumer electronics continues to expand. If companies are unable to secure the rare earths they need, they may have to either delay the launch of new products or increase the prices of their existing offerings, which could affect their competitiveness in the global market. The shortage of rare earths could also impact the hard disk drive (HDD) industry, which depends on rare earth magnets for high-density storage solutions. As data storage needs continue to grow, companies that manufacture HDDs may face challenges in maintaining production schedules and meeting customer demands. The consumer electronics sector is also concerned about potential supply chain disruptions, as many electronics manufacturers rely on just-in-time manufacturing models, which are heavily dependent on a stable and predictable supply of materials. The uncertainty surrounding China's export licensing process could further exacerbate these issues, as companies are forced to wait longer for approvals or search for alternative suppliers in other regions. This uncertainty could hinder production timelines and increase the overall cost of goods sold, ultimately affecting the end consumer. Military and defense sector concerns. The military and defense sectors are also deeply concerned about China's export controls on rare earth minerals. Many advanced military systems, including precision-guided missiles, radar systems, communication devices, and other critical defense technologies, rely on rare earth elements for their high-performance capabilities. Dysprosium, terbium, and NdFeB magnets are particularly important for producing the strong permanent magnets used in defense applications. The United States, which is one of the largest consumers of rare earths for defense applications, has expressed significant concerns about its reliance on China for these materials. In recent years, the U.S. government has been working to reduce its dependence on Chinese rare earths, particularly in light of the growing geopolitical tensions between the two countries. However, efforts to develop alternative sources of rare earths in the U.S. have faced significant delays, and the cost of establishing domestic mining and processing infrastructure is high. As China tightens its grip on the rare earth market, countries that are heavily reliant on Chinese imports for defense technologies are facing a potential national security risk. In the event of a prolonged conflict or trade dispute, the ability to access rare earths for military purposes could become a significant obstacle. For the U.S. and its allies, this could mean a greater push to develop domestic mining operations and secure alternative supply chains for these critical materials. The efforts to diversify and the roadblocks. As concerns grow about the impact of China's export controls on rare earths, many countries and companies are exploring ways to diversify their sources of supply. Efforts to develop alternative sources of rare earths outside of China have been underway for several years, with countries such as the United States, Australia, and Canada taking the lead in establishing new mining operations. However, these efforts face significant challenges. For example, the United States has been attempting to reduce its reliance on China for rare earth minerals by developing domestic mining and processing capabilities. In 2020, the U.S. government allocated funds for the Mountain Pass mine in California, which is one of the few rare earth mining operations in the country. However, the Mountain Pass mine faces significant environmental challenges, as the process of extracting rare earths can be highly polluting. Additionally, the cost of building up the necessary infrastructure for domestic rare earth production is high, and the timeline for bringing these new projects online is long. Similarly, Australia has significant rare earth reserves and is one of the largest producers of rare earth minerals outside of China. However, Australian companies are facing their own set of challenges. The country's mining industry is already stretched thin, and environmental concerns surrounding the extraction of rare earths have led to increased regulatory scrutiny. Moreover, Australia's ability to process and refine rare earths is limited, and the country is still heavily dependent on China for refining and manufacturing capabilities. Even with the push to find alternative sources, the diversification of supply chains for rare earth minerals is not a simple or quick fix. The extraction, processing, and refining of rare earths are resource-intensive and environmentally damaging processes. As such, companies and countries are realizing that achieving a secure and sustainable supply of rare earths will require not only more mining operations but also investment in recycling and reclamation technologies that can help reduce dependence on new mining. The global impact of China's decision to impose strict export controls on rare earth minerals is profound. Industries around the world that rely on these materials, ranging from electric vehicles and renewable energy to high-tech electronics and defense systems, are facing significant disruptions to their supply chains. The uncertainty caused by the new export restrictions has forced companies to explore alternative sources of supply and develop strategies to mitigate the risks of relying on a single country for such critical materials. While some progress is being made in diversifying the supply of rare earth minerals, the reality is that China's dominance in the market is unlikely to change overnight. The global race to secure access to rare earths is just beginning, and it is clear that the geopolitical and economic implications of this race will have far-reaching consequences for businesses, governments, and consumers alike. The future of industries ranging from electric vehicles to high-tech electronics may depend on the ability of countries and companies to secure a reliable, sustainable, and diversified supply of rare earth minerals. Future outlook and alternative solutions. As China's export controls on rare earth minerals continue to reverberate through global markets, the long-term implications for industries that depend on these critical materials are becoming increasingly clear. While China's move to restrict the export of rare earths is a strategic maneuver to maintain control over a valuable resource, it has also sparked a race among countries, businesses, and researchers to find alternative solutions to mitigate the impact of these restrictions. The future outlook for industries dependent on rare earths hinges on the ability to diversify supply sources, develop new technologies, and reduce dependence on Chinese exports. This section will explore the potential future scenarios for the global rare earth market and the strategies being implemented to address the challenges posed by these restrictions. The quest for diversified sources of supply. One of the most pressing concerns following China's export controls is the need to diversify the sources of rare earth minerals. Historically, China has controlled more than 80% of the global supply of rare earth elements, making countries and companies that rely on these minerals vulnerable to supply chain disruptions. The focus of the future outlook will be on increasing the availability of rare earths outside of China through new mining operations, international trade partnerships, and technological advancements. Expanding domestic mining capabilities. Several countries, including the United States, Australia, and Canada, are making significant efforts to develop domestic mining capabilities in order to reduce their dependence on China. The U.S., for example, has already started to build a domestic rare earth supply chain, with the Mountain Pass mine in California, one of the few rare earth mining operations in the country, leading the charge. This mine, which has historically been a key player in the U.S. rare earth market, is undergoing a major expansion and is expected to provide a more reliable and secure source of rare earth materials for U.S. manufacturers. The U.S. government has also allocated substantial funds for the development of rare earth production in the country. In addition to mining, there are efforts to build rare earth refining and processing capabilities in the U.S. This is crucial, as most of the rare earths mined domestically will need to be processed and refined before they can be used in manufacturing. The establishment of refining facilities will allow the U.S. to take greater control of its rare earth supply chain and reduce reliance on China for the processing of these materials. However, expanding domestic mining operations is not without challenges. The extraction of rare earths is often an environmentally damaging process, and there are strict environmental regulations that must be adhered to. Many mining operations are facing opposition from local communities and environmental groups, which complicates efforts to expand domestic production. Furthermore, the cost of developing mining operations and refining facilities is high, and it may take several years before new projects come online in a meaningful way. Australia and Canada, key partners in diversification. Australia is another key player in the efforts to diversify the global rare earth supply chain. The country has some of the largest known reserves of rare earth minerals, and its mining industry is already one of the largest producers of these materials outside of China. Australia's Lynas Corporation, the largest rare earth producer outside of China, is already ramping up its mining operations and seeking new markets for its products. Lynas is working on expanding its capacity to meet the growing global demand for rare earths, and the company has also secured a partnership with the U.S. Department of Defense to help ensure a steady supply of rare earths for defense applications. While Australia's mining capabilities are impressive, it still faces challenges in processing and refining rare earths. Most of the processing and separation of rare earths is still done in China, and the development of processing facilities outside of China is critical for reducing global reliance on Chinese refineries. The Australian government has expressed interest in investing in new processing facilities, and the country is actively seeking international partnerships to build the necessary infrastructure. Canada, another country with significant rare earth deposits, is also positioning itself as a key player in the diversification of rare earth sources. Canada has substantial reserves of rare earth minerals, particularly in the northern regions of the country. Companies like Search Minerals and Critical Elements Corp are focused on developing new mining operations and exploring ways to process and refine rare earths domestically. Canada's strong mining sector and stable political environment make it an attractive alternative to China as a supplier of rare earths. Expanding mining in Africa. In addition to the US, Australia, and Canada, Africa has become an increasingly important region for rare earth mining. The continent is home to significant untapped reserves of rare earth minerals, and several countries, including South Africa and Democratic Republic of the Congo, are beginning to develop their mining industries to meet global demand. Africa's potential as a source of rare earths is significant, but the region faces its own set of challenges. Political instability, poor infrastructure, and a lack of skilled labor can make it difficult for companies to develop mining operations in the region. Furthermore, environmental concerns surrounding the extraction of rare earth minerals must be addressed to ensure sustainable mining practices. Despite these challenges, Africa's potential to contribute to the global supply of rare earth minerals is growing, and international companies are beginning to invest more in African mining projects. These investments, combined with the region's untapped reserves, could help reduce dependence on China over time. Technological innovation and recycling. While expanding mining operations is essential for ensuring a steady supply of rare earth minerals, technological innovation and recycling will play a crucial role in addressing the global demand for these materials. As the demand for rare earths continues to grow, it is becoming increasingly important to explore ways to recycle and reclaim rare earths from existing products. Recycling rare earths from used electronics, batteries, and other consumer products could reduce the need for new mining operations and help close the loop on the global supply chain. Rare earth recycling technologies. Currently, the recycling of rare earth materials is an emerging industry that is still in its early stages. Many of the technologies required to extract rare earth elements from electronic waste, used batteries, and discarded motors are not yet fully developed or widely implemented. However, the need for recycling solutions is growing, and companies around the world are investing in research and development to create more efficient and cost-effective recycling technologies. In the US, companies like Urban Mining Company and Rare Earth Salts are working on developing technologies to extract rare earths from used electronics. These companies are using advanced chemical processes to separate rare earth elements from old devices, such as smartphones and computers, and make them available for reuse in manufacturing. The US government is also funding research into rare earth recycling, with a focus on developing technologies that can efficiently recover rare earths from waste and reduce the need for new mining. Recycling rare earths from electronic waste presents a significant opportunity to reduce the environmental impact of mining and improve the sustainability of rare earth supply chains. It is also a way to ensure a more secure and stable supply of rare earth materials. However, the challenge remains to scale up these recycling efforts to meet the growing global demand for rare earths. Another avenue for reducing dependence on rare earths is to increase efficiency in their use. Many industries are exploring ways to use fewer rare earth minerals in the production of their products. For instance, companies are developing new technologies that use alternative materials or less rare earth content in the production of magnets, batteries, and other components. In the automotive sector, for example, companies are exploring alternative magnetic materials or designing electric motors that use fewer rare earths. Similarly, in the renewable energy sector, researchers are working on developing wind turbines and solar panels that require fewer rare earth elements while maintaining high levels of efficiency. The role of geopolitics in future supply chains. Geopolitical factors will continue to play a significant role in shaping the future of the rare earths market. China's dominance in the sector and its use of rare earths as a geopolitical tool underscore the importance of diversifying supply chains and ensuring access to these critical materials. As tensions between China and other countries, particularly the United States, remain high, the race to secure alternative sources of rare earths will intensify. Countries that are able to successfully diversify their rare earth supply chains, through a combination of domestic mining, international partnerships, and technological innovations, will be better positioned to weather future disruptions in the rare earth market. However, the global nature of the supply chain means that collaboration and international cooperation will be key to addressing the challenges posed by China's export controls and ensuring a steady, secure, and sustainable supply of rare earth materials in the years to come. The future outlook for the global rare earth market is uncertain, but the strategies being implemented to diversify sources, develop new technologies, and reduce dependence on China offer a glimpse of how industries can adapt to the challenges posed by China's export restrictions. The shift toward domestic mining, recycling, and alternative materials will help mitigate the impact of supply chain disruptions and ensure that critical industries, including electric vehicles, renewable energy, high-tech electronics, and defense, can continue to function smoothly. However, this transition will take time and substantial investment, and the global race for rare earth resources is likely to continue for the foreseeable future. The imposition of strict export controls on rare earth minerals by China in April 2025 marks a pivotal moment in the global supply chain, particularly for industries that rely heavily on these critical materials. From electric vehicles and renewable energy technologies to high-tech electronics and military defense systems, the scarcity of rare earths could have profound consequences on global production, innovation, and geopolitical stability. In the face of these challenges, industries worldwide are exploring a range of alternative solutions. Efforts to diversify supply sources through expanded domestic mining operations in countries such as the United States, Australia, and Canada are essential in reducing dependence on China. However, these efforts come with their own set of challenges, including environmental concerns, high costs, and long lead times for new projects to come online. Simultaneously, recycling and the development of more efficient usage technologies present promising avenues to reduce the pressure on raw material extraction and improve sustainability within the supply chain. The race for rare earths is not just about securing resources, but also about ensuring a future that is both technologically advanced and geopolitically secure. As nations and companies work to secure alternative supplies, the development of new technologies to recycle and reuse rare earths will be key in reducing the global dependence on mining. Innovations that reduce the need for rare earths in high-performance devices, along with the growing focus on sustainability, will also help mitigate the impact of these restrictions. Ultimately, the outcome of this global race for rare earths will depend on collaboration across borders and industries, a concerted push to innovate in resource extraction and recycling, and careful management of environmental and geopolitical risks. While challenges abound, the drive for a more secure, sustainable, and diversified supply chain for rare earth minerals is likely to shape the future of industries that are central to the global transition to green energy, technological advancement, and national defense. In conclusion, the rare earth industry is at a crossroads, and how nations and businesses respond to China's restrictions will not only determine the stability of global supply chains but also the pace at which industries like electric vehicles, renewable energy, and high-tech electronics can continue to evolve. The search for alternative solutions is not just a necessity, it's a race to secure the resources that will power the technologies of the future.